Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and anything franchising. Today I'm at the National Franchising Convention held by the Franchise Council of Australia in Melbourne, and I'm joined by the wonderful Mark Carter. Mark, welcome.
Thank you so much, and awesome to join you. Thanks for inviting.
Thank you. So you are a speaker, international speaker, presenter, MC, all sorts of stuff. How do you describe yourself when you meet people?
You've done it well.
No,
actually, that's like international speaker, trainer, author, and a global learning and development professional for 30 years, which I think is important because that's the anchor of substance to what gives you the right or credibility, I think.
To speak to an audience.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk today, and I asked you to come on this. So I really appreciate you taking the time because you're running around, you've done a presentation here, and I wanted to talk about what it takes to be a great speaker and MC and presenter, and I'd love to unpack that.
Yeah.
So where do you even begin? Where does it start? Well, where does your experience start that enables you to do what you do with your amazing presentations?
Yeah, I love it. Actually ties into the keynote I did this morning. So I got my first role in training and development was with Contiki holidays in Europe.
The fun holidays.
There you go. And I was a tour leader.
I can't picture that at all.
And you learn, I was doing multiple presentations every day in that environment. So you learn naturally. Then you can layer that. My field's human behavior. So you can layer that, you may have natural talents. I'm a storyteller quite naturally, but then you hone that craft. For me, a lot of the skills I bring into now what I do, I learned in that environment serendipitously, and then you kind of click it together for me and go, oh, that's why it works. That's why it works. So
that training was happening at that moment. You wouldn't have even realized it.
Yeah, like becoming a storyteller, because, I'm sure we'll dive into this. Storytelling is such a powerful skill. I mean, that's what presentation is around. And on tours, yes, you're telling great stories to bring the cities to life. It's not just fact-driven dates. It's the stories. So, I learned the craft. I was fortunate to be in that environment, and then consciously crafted it by going, right, that's how I apply it. And I will say that, like, as a speaker, I always laugh a bit with that label, because it's not one. I didn't go chasing, I'm going to be a speaker. That has evolved naturally by doing what I do, where other people see it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it just kind of like gradually unfolded over years, not like me going, okay, I'm now going to be a speaker.
Yeah,
and I know that is a path.
This is my job now.
Yeah. So it's just happened naturally that way. Kind of do what you do really well, and then that path might emerge.
Yeah. So when did you realize you were really enjoying doing that sort of stuff? I can imagine you got to be a type of personality to be up there. I picture you on like a Contiki tour bus, right? Paint the picture for me. And how's that? Because it's got to evolve to where you are now.
I love it. Can I just ask, you can picture me on that. Why? Why can you? I love that. Right.
Yeah. Maybe it's your energy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, look, I think it was just, I'm very people driven. I love stories. I love the etymology and history, like as a guide. I love the history, and that's what brings stories to life. So I think those skills is what really, just to start with unconsciously and now consciously, I know they worked in that environment. They absolutely work, whether you're a trainer or a speaker. And then I 20 years ago, more than that actually, probably, one of my clients was doing some work with census. And the GM pulled me aside. He said, you're a really great presenter. Can you train our people on presentation skills? To which I said yes. And then I built the program.
I was going to say, were you wondering where to start?
Yeah, well, I just said, give me and then I jotted down, I drafted out as a learning and development guy. I'm like, okay, what's the skills? How do you train it? What do you do? And I landed on a framework, and that program's called Orator, which is a polished presenter. And frankly, the core aspects of that program have not changed. I've added to it for presenting in a virtual world. So I was fortunate to be head of learning and development for a web conferencing company in 2008 to 2010.
A web conferencing company.
So
right
where I was doing, well before 15 years or whatever, before COVID. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of content virtually, and then mastered and learned how do you do the same thing that you do live virtually. So I've added to that program. But here's it in a nutshell. When I've crafted the program, I went, right, it's voice influences, 7 of them. Body language essentials, there's 7 of those. How to design a presentation, 7 tips for that. How to tell stories, 7 archetypal themes of storytelling, and then 7 creative methodologies to bring storytelling to life. How do you engage an audience with behavioral sciences? 7 techniques for that. How do you deliver? 7 tips for that. So, it's like, there's a metaphor I use here. Have you got a favorite band, Glenn, music-wise?
Oasis.
Right. I love Depeche Mode, right? You hear me bad, but you know. So Oasis, if you were to, maybe not Oasis when I think who they are, but no, I'll tell you why. My brain's thinking ahead. Most musicians, when I watch them talk about their gig, they'll all say, "Oh, we played a bunch of bad notes, or we did a bad note that night," but nobody in the crowd knows.
Noticed.
But they do, right? So think about that structure.
That's the perfectionism.
Yeah. So those parent labels like body language, voice influences, content design, storytelling, audience engagement, delivery, and within them 7 tips. It's not about trying to do all at once. You gradually upskill on all, but that's the ingredients.
So is that like the 1% incremental?
Yeah, that's exactly. And the better you can become at those things, because ultimately that is the fundamental skills of presentation skills. And when I built that program, I deliberately designed, I remember designing the content with no slides, it was a handout. Mm-hmm. And that's because, and it's actually in the courseware, so I'm probably giving away IP with this one, but I open and close with a couple of messages. And one of them is really powerful. It's, I am the presentation, not the slides. That's a prop.
It's a bit of a mindset shift.
Yeah, and so when you can, that's a prop, and that's what my signature style, which you hear a bit about, the cinematic style. That's what it's having. That mindset is what allows to present that way, because you're not relying on this. You're the content. That's a tool to help you. Bring it to life.
I hadn't thought about your cinematic style like that, because I'm almost like you refer to the slides as a bit of an anchor. It's an anchor. You have a key point, you can message off that point. But did it feel a bit naked being up there without that sort of stuff?
No, I mean, it's
I imagine
funny.
It would for many.
Yeah, it's funny because that's one of the questions I get when I do this. I've got 8 of those cinematic productions now. And I get asked certain questions when I do them, one of which is, where's your notes? And I'm like, well, there aren't notes. And where's your clicker? No, there wasn't a clicker. It's a single file. How do you do it? And I go, well, it's knowing your stuff. It's not, you got to know your stuff, and then you've got the confidence. And to your point, Glenn, a slide, think about a slide though. A slide is your anchor. Mm-hmm. So the visual is the same. I'm just not incumbent to have to look at it. I can see a glimpse of it moving out the corner of my eye, or the sound,
and that
the music.
That triggers you.
I know where I'm up to, and because I know my stuff, I can then flow with it, because you know your content. So it's still an anchor in some ways. But it's a very different form. It's a very different form, and you've got nowhere to hide, right? Because with a slide, you can pause,
move on the next one,
slow and go down. When you've got the cinematics,
the pace is moving, isn't it?
You're moving, so it's just you've got no how, so you just keep up. But it's a similar thing. It's just a very different experience,
different cadence. So with that in mind, with that cinematic method that you do, what's the redundancy if that thing's and can you tell any stories where it hasn't quite?
For sure. So think it's actually no different. Like if you present with a slide deck, your slides could bomb.
But yours is more obvious. When the music stops, the video stops, and everything. A slide deck is going, oh, hang on, and everyone goes, oh, gee, that's happened to me. I get that. Yeah. But no one can really align with you and say, this stuff isn't working. So
that's the risk. So I want to mitigate the risk of that, because they're a lot, like the files from are huge, and there's like each production, like so much an hour build to build each one. But we render them then as a singular MP4, so it's globally universal.
Yep.
And then I've let you with tech, do not embed the video in a slide deck.
Into a link or something like that?
No, but don't embed the video into a PowerPoint.
Yeah, because there's a hyperlink. It becomes a hyperlink.
Yeah, well, no, it's not even a hyperlink. It's just, it's embedded in the presentation. But now you're running a PowerPoint with multiple gigabyte that slows it down. So you just play the video straight from the video file. It's rendered out in a high-res MP4, so it's globally universal. So you play it from the video file. So it's like watching a video. So it mitigates the risk of it bombing. That said, it still can. So the other one I would say to tech is make sure you're just paying attention where we're up to. If it drops, I won't stop.
You just keep rolling.
I'll keep rolling. So whilst the crowd, and it's more obvious to your point in the slide because it's on, but because I will not be thrown, I'll still going. It's no different. People accept there's sometimes tech failure that doesn't necessarily kill that flow.
Fairly gentle on that sort of stuff. We all know that stuff happens.
And then so long as tech have watched where we're up to, they just drag it back more or less to where we are, then it's no problem. So we've done that piece. So there was one time I can think, one presentation where it literally bombed, and that's because the tech had embedded it in a PowerPoint. So what happened was the audio was still rolling in time, but the video had stuck. And I knew the crowd, the audience have no idea. I just kept going. But it was right at an integral part. Like it was like the second time. It was the one place on that talk that you just don't want to happen. But I saw it called out. I subtly because they don't know. Funnily enough, for that event, I for whatever reason hadn't had a chance to really do a good brief with tech. That's the other one. You meet with tech, brief with tech. They know everybody's.
Do you ever meet tech and go, "Oh, I'm in trouble here"? Oh,
No.
I'm concerned.
No.
Because sometimes we've done presentations and stuff with mics and things like that, and you think, oh, I don't know, this is going to go very well.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm very grateful to all the tech crews I work with because they all make me
You
look
rely
good
on them, very much.
And, so I make sure I go and meet them all by name, work with them, they help you. And so, I don't think about that necessarily. It's just these simple things. Don't embed it. If it gets stuck, make sure you're watching, so you just get it back. Don't worry about me. I'll keep going, but just get it back to where it needs to be. So It's just simple tips to be a pro,
So the inspiration for going cinematic, so it was, and not going a traditional style, because I suppose it's a non-traditional style of presentation you're giving.
Sure.
So what was the inspiration for that? Because what I'm getting at is that to be a speaker, to be an MC or whatever, you want to have some point of difference. I imagine you have something that's your hook, and you clearly are very identifiable for what you do.
Yeah. It was, again, it's conscious effort, and yes, so I still do. I do two styles. I've got the cinematics that are built end to end, and they're almost modularized, so I can do shorter versions or swap bits in and out for certain themes. But I've designed them as an experience a certain way, and we can roll them. I still do typical keynotes, but my bespoke typical keynotes have still got creativity. Like I've just always been a creative presenter, I guess. So there's still creative aspects that give them a point of difference. Back to the main point you asked, which was what's the inspiration? Look, that's my learning and development mind going. We learn, human beings, we learn through all our senses. We learn through the stories. We learn through our senses. And I think when you watch a documentary, think about what a documentary is. It's a video with live narration and a soundtrack.
Yep.
When you watch a movie, there's a music score, a script, which is a story, and the movie, which is the video. So think about it this way. That's the same thing. This is like a live doco. It's an interactive, sensory submersed keynote. So in my head, as a learning development guy, I go, well, it's going to work because it's sensory submersion. It's a different experience. So that's partially, it's to help people feel and look at the content and lean in a bit differently. And you always got takeaways, but as you know as well, if you're a presenter, there's so much you can do in the keynote, and then I've got workshops that really go workshop style to drill into them. So you make sure there's anchorable takeaway items, that it's sensory submersed, and they're going to learn from that. So that was my reason behind it. And yes, the second is a point of difference. I don't know anybody else that does an end-to-end. I know a lot of people use video. I don't know anybody else that does an end-to-end.
I haven't seen one.
And it's more event, you deal with event managers a bit, and they say the same, like, wow, it's really different. So I think that's what's nice. It's a point of difference.
It's the point of difference you've got. And I think because most people's point of difference is their story. It's their one story. So someone might have a story that's their thing. Yeah. So it's interesting. So how did you bridge? What was the bridge from that to start? Like when you actually started speaking. So for someone who has, let's say someone has aspirations to be a speaker or an MC, what triggered it? What was the point? Right, I'm doing this now. Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like for me. It comes back to what I said earlier. I'm a learning development guy. I've always been passionate. I got the bug with that, with developing leaders for Contiki in Europe. Yep. Here's actually a short story. My boss in Europe at the time, remember, she pulled me in and said to me, you're going to be my training manager next year. And Frank, at the time, I'm young, I'm mid-20s. I said yes, more out of ego because you get to play football against the Florentines. And it's, I don't know, it's just nice. It was fun. But I said yes because it'd be fun. And I remember her leaning over the table to me and said, no, you're going to do it because you should be doing this because you belong to people. And I kind of laughed and went, yeah, whatever that means.
It's pretty deep.
It is, but now fast forward, and actually I give kudos to her in my first book and say, like, she saw it, I guess, in me before I did. And then when I started running training, I did enjoy it. And now you fast forward, I'm still in the field. That's like almost 30 years later. It's 29 years later or whatever. So coming back to your question, I think do something because you really enjoy it and because you believe in what it is you're sharing. I think there's a lot of people want to be a speaker. That's the bit I said earlier. So I didn't necessarily have a desire.
It's a bit of a mixed term, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't have a desire to be a speaker. I had a desire to share knowledge and train and develop people. Speaking, to me, at least, is merely another mechanism for that, as is podcasting, as is writing a book, as is facilitating a training session. So it's the desire to be a speaker wasn't my desire. That just happened by doing what I do. My passion was more about the content and the stories of what I'm trying to share and the themes. And then as a human behavioral, that's my field, is human behavior. I've built out a big academy of content now. It's not one talk. Those cinematics, I think we've got 8 currently.
So is that the key then, as to be a successful, I was going to say speaker, but no, to be a successful MC, speaker, presenter, whatever it might be, having those multiple different diversified streams of content and delivery you can go into, because then you can be quite flexible as far as what events you're part of. Because it's a big part of it, isn't it?
It can also be a hindrance. So you would have other people on here, and then you would know it. There's a lot of speakers. They've got that one thing they do. In some ways, it's a blessing and it's a bit of a curse as well, because I think some people expect you to just have one, and they don't understand how you can have multiple. But when you're human behavior is my field. You can layer that to leadership. You layer that to culture. You can layer that to sales.
It becomes very adaptable.
You can layer that to, and especially when you have come from a professional background of learning and development, you're forced to do those things. So that's why my background professionally is what allows me to curate a variety of content and an equal stand. I would say they're all. I've got bits I prefer. I'm sure other people might see and just where they're at, but they're all at the same sort of standard. But that doesn't mean it's the only path. There are people out there that carve a beautiful path by that one very niche focus, that one particular talk. So I don't think it's about the diversification. In my instance, I think for me it helps. And whilst people on your streamline, I trim it down to maybe 3 to keep it simple, but I'm not going to take away the range I've got. I think the bigger point is really intent, purpose, because you're passionate about sharing that message more than you are wanting to be a speaker
and get the applause, and
that's it. And it's taken
it comes out to why, doesn't it?
It's your why, and it's taken, to me, I just think that takes the ego out of it a bit more, and then you do that, and then you build from there. And then you can layer this with this. I'm sure you've done podcasts. I know you've done podcasts with people, Glenn, on that. How you marketing. Social presence, and I got my own takes on that. In fact, it was in the keynote this morning. There's a lot of people that are talent that actually market themselves and do a lot of gigs, but they don't necessarily have substance in their content. Frankly, that's the opposite side. Because they brand really well, they market really well, but maybe the depth of the content isn't there.
Well, it's the marketing, the wins, unfortunately, isn't it? That's just the nature of it.
So I would say, if anything, I've done the opposite. I've got the content's there, and if anything, my Achilles heel has been the marketing,
getting out there,
the
with
marketing, and because nobody's great at everything, so it comes back to do what you do really well. In fact, makes me think of great musicians, Angus Young and all these people spring to mind, or one of the Whitesnake or whatever. If you want to be famous, not exact quote, but along these lines.
Close,
if you want to be famous, just run naked down the street with a guitar or something. But if you want to be a musician, play.
Practice.
And I love that. Like, that's it. So that really captures this idea of me of this ego fame side of wanting to speak, present, MC,
and that adulation chase.
And that adulation chase versus I really am passionate about the content message power. And so I lean to this, not that. And
so as we wrap up, what is, you seem to me a person, we don't know each other well, but you seem to me a person who's got plans for the future and goals and things like that. So what does it look like? What's the spin-off from or the growth from here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in my field, I'm in my flow, so I'm more of the same. Like half my time these days is keynotes, more or less. Half my time is deep dive training. Across, and now you get to a point where you cross that bridge of just one sector or one industry. That's crossed a long time ago, so it's made that relevant. So for me, the growth is second venture with Beza, who was here with me today on MC Presents.
She's your business partner.
Business. So I've got as a speaker, obviously my keynotes, my signature ones is kind of me and my training programs there, but I've opened up that and running that business with Beza specifically to expand and scale up. So we're doing more of the same for me and more of the same with Beza. Joint keynotes and some joint keynotes in that signature style
That'd be
happen
interesting,
too. And
yeah.
that change of energy, like the masculine, feminine, male, whatever you want to call it, but it's just it's a diverse
Just a
way of
mix-up,
presenting. It's a mix-up.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and she's cool. Bez is really
Yeah,
cool.
she's lovely, yeah.
We get on really well. We're really aligned with messaging. I don't know if you caught today, but I was talking about EQ, and Bez is stars that EQ. She's high EQ. So we just get on really well. It's a good synergy. So more of the same for me, and expand that, and more of the same with Beza, and more into the public arena as well, to hopefully make more of the tools available for individuals, not just the corporates I work with.
Corporates.
You know, and somebody asked me today, am I writing my next book because of books and those spin-off? Yes, because I do write my own books, but it takes time, and it's just get that into priority. And then the online academy that kind of supports everything we do. Yeah, more of the same in that way.
Excellent, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us, mate, and taking the time. I know you were busy running around doing your thing, so I really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It was funny, Bez, to say, boys want to come down. You know, as you come off stage, especially that start, your brain's buzzing. And you say yes, but you don't really know what you do. yeah. And now I've had a chance. I really appreciate it. I've seen your podcast before. I see you at the events all the time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure, mate.
Thank you for
so
asking
much.
me.
Thanks, Mark. And that's it for another one of the Franchise Everything podcast. Please share, like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one soon.